Hi-Fi Rush is one of the best gaming surprises in a long time. It's a vibrant hack and slash set to the beat of a rhythm game, and comes to us from the same developers that made the Evil Within games, because of course it does. The best part? If you have Game Pass, you can play it right now as part of your subscription. We take a look at a new game every single week, so if you like what you see, make sure to subscribe. It really does help us grow. So grab your guitars and turn it up to 11. We're getting into rhythm and letting you know why Hi-Fi Rush is worth your time. Hi-Fi Rush is one of the smoothest and richest gameplay systems I've seen in a long time. The game is divided into 3 slices of gameplay: combat, boss battles, and exploration. Everything is set to the beat, and the better your rhythm, the better your score. Let's tackle them in order. Combat starts off simple, just smack enemies with your guitar in time with the rhythm. You start off with a heavy and light attack, hit 3 perfect beats, and you get a small finisher combo, all well and good. At this base level, combat feels satisfying, and it only gets better from here. Moving up, you have special attacks. Charge up enough reverb and you can unleash a special move that obliterates your enemies. This gauge empties after every fight, so you never have to worry about saving your special. This is a great choice to give the player the freedom to use everything in their arsenal as soon as it becomes available. After your first escapade, you can also purchase additional fighting moves and special attacks. My favourite one was this, where you pause the action and play Guitar Hero for a second before unleashing massive damage if you nail the notes. We're still going. A little ways into the game, you unlock the parry move, and this opens up even more combat systems. Obviously, you can now parry attacks, but certain enemies will now do final showdowns on you. This is an all or nothing parry minigame. Win, and you get to take out your opponent in one shot. These attacks are always massively telegraphed and have excellent flair. You also have a grappling hook, which can be used to pull you towards enemies and keep the combat flow. All games with grappling hooks are automatically better. Finally, what good is a hero without his team? As new members join you, you can call them in to utilise special abilities that affect both combat and exploration. In combat, this is a one-button press that calls in a teammate to break shields or stun enemies. Using your team abilities is paramount to success, and is a great way to tie in narrative with gameplay. So, that's all of your moves, which are frankly handled excellently. Everything here serves a unique purpose and contributes to the full combat package, which is innately satisfying. But I hear you want to know what you can hit. Enemy design is wonderful. You have your standard sword and gun robots, then you have flying drones that take your combat to the skies, or shield enemies that require help from your team, or samurais that challenge you to a showdown. On that note, the samurai was the only enemy I didn't like fighting to begin with. I found that they slowed down the pace of combat and required too much individual focus, but as the game went on, I did get better at fighting them, and they got more fun. There is a learning curve present, especially with some of the later enemies. Finally, I'd like to touch on a few smaller decisions that really help out the gameplay. Making health drop from killed enemies keeps the pace up. I also really like these small animations that let you know another wave of enemies is spawning. Also, having your score rank constantly on display is a great quality of life addition for perfect run seekers. That was a lot of information very quickly, so let's take a breather. Overall, the combat in this game is as close to flawless as you can get. The foundation is simple, and all of the extra layers serve multiple purposes throughout the whole game. This is topped off with fantastic enemy design and even crazier boss fights. The boss fights in Hi-Fi Rush are unique and brilliant. Sure, there are some more standard boss fights, but these are brought up by fantastic music choices and art direction. It's the same great gameplay, but with a bigger thing to hit. What's not to love? Then you have the boss fights that break the mold, like this one where instead of fighting the boss, you make him go over budget and get fired, or this one which has you doing a pacifist run whilst being really smug about it. The developers know when to break up the rhythm and throw something new at you, and it works wonderfully. Before wrapping this up in a musical bow, we need to talk about the exploration gameplay. Each level in Hi-Fi Rush is a semi-linear gauntlet packed to the brim with combat encounters, 3D platforming, 2D platforming, ziplines and secrets. Platforming on its own feels good, but isn't up to the polish of the combat. Chai feels a bit unresponsive and moves slow, but you can move a lot faster by dashing to the beat. Platforming is still fun, but it is worth mentioning the slight issues. Level design really comes to the forefront with exploration, and this is bolstered by making almost every secret you can find useful to the player. You can discover gears for upgrades, larger pickups to increase your max health and special bar, and chips to buy small permanent upgrades. The more you explore, the more powerful you get. This is how you incentivize players to sniff out every nook and cranny of your levels. There are also documents to find, but honestly, I hated stopping to read them even if they were pretty funny. These kind of collectibles just grind the gameplay to a halt. Your team abilities also come in handy when exploring. You'll need help to get past certain obstacles, and once again, this is a great melding of narrative and gameplay. All of these systems are wrapped up in the rhythm game. The whole world moves to the beat, and the better you keep in time, the higher score you get. This is what takes Hi-Fi Rush from a good hack and slash to a great one. At the start of the game, you'll probably be like me, you won't have a rhythm. You'll need to use the helpful guide that you can bring up at any time, and combat encounters will be a bit touch and go. By the end of the game, you'll be chaining together entire rooms of enemies in perfect sync, whilst Invaders Must Die blasts in the background. The game does a fantastic job of keeping every mechanic at the forefront so that you learn the gameplay inside and out, and can master everything. However, at the same time, you're not punished for being offbeat too harshly outside of the parry showdowns. All being offbeat effects are your combos and score, but you can get through the game without perfect rhythm. There's still a little bit more to mop up. We've touched on the buyable attacks, but you also have permanent upgrades. These are your standard health and special increases, but you also have the chip system. These are small modifiers that serve to permanently help you out. They increase your item pickup distance or lower cooldown times on team abilities. These can be accessed at terminals throughout levels or in the hideout, which is your breather between levels. Here you have extra challenges for rewards and can take part in training. After you beat the game, the hideout opens up with tons of new content. Overall, Hi-Fi Rush is a slam dunk in the gameplay department. Everything that is here serves multiple purposes and feels great at a foundation level. It is so easy to tell that these gameplay systems came from a place of true passion, and that the developers had just as fun making the game as I did playing it. Just the gameplay alone makes this an easy early contender for Game of the Year, and we've still got 4 more sections of this review to go. Do I even need to say it? 5 out of 5! Hi-Fi Rush oozes vibrance. Where to begin? Let's start with the music, which lies at the core of the game. We've got a mix of licensed and new music to give the gameplay rhythm. The majority of levels are scored with the original soundtrack, which is great. There wasn't a track here that I didn't enjoy, and some really stood out, like the museum track. This is something that really needed to be done right, and the composer nailed it. The licensed picks are also solid, and any game that uses the Black Keys is a winner in my book. The tracks here are used sparingly, which makes them more memorable. It's mostly the boss fights that get the licensed treatment, and only bolster the personality of the bosses and their fights. However, licensed music is used for some regular gameplay sections to great effect. The best example of this is a cafeteria fight set to Invaders Must Die by The Prodigy. This is not just the best section of Hi-Fi Rush, it might just be the best 10 minutes of my entire life. Basically, the music is really good. Sound design is equally excellent. Attacks sound strong, and everything that moves in the game has an enhanced noise to emphasize how everything is moving to the beat. Sound design also blends wonderfully with visual design in the way that everything is animated to the beat. Lights on the floor turn onto the beat, Chai snaps his fingers to the beat, hell, even the UI pulses to the beat. If you find yourself off rhythm, it's incredibly easy to count yourself back in just by looking around. On the topic of UI, menu UI is a nice blending of function and form. It is easy to see everything you need, and video tutorials can be expanded, but there was care taken to give the game a great comic book aesthetic. And with that, we're onto the great visual design. I'm going to start with environment design because I just want to commend the devs on making every level visually distinct on top of making them all audibly distinct. Even the more boring settings like a construction yard manage to look fantastic through great use of large spacing and vibrant colour. The crazier settings really benefit from the comic book style, like this stage or Scrooge McDuck's vault, or the frickin' volcano level. There's not a single area in this game that isn't a treat for the eyes. Character design is similarly top notch. Everyone here looks like they're ripped straight out of a comic book. The main team all have distinct looks that echo their personality, bosses look wild and crazy, and enemy design is always clear in the chaos of battle. General animation is top notch. Chai is incredibly fluid, attacks have plenty of little details to enhance the larger hits, and enemies explode when you kill them. Every little animation here has that little extra bit of oomph, and it all adds up. Finally, cutscenes are like an anime Saturday morning cartoon on crack. Character animations are emphasized massively, these screens always look awesome, and everything just explodes with colour. Oh yeah, and the cutscenes are also set to the beat. I just can't praise this enough. The game trades realism for style and does it wonderfully. Everything from the music to the animations to the general art style is polished to perfection, and it only enhances the fantastic gameplay. We're giving the art direction the full 5 out of 5.
You wanna get that tail? You gotta get through me.
Hi-Fi Rush is a 90s Saturday morning cartoon, and it's freaking awesome. The writers know exactly what this is. The story is that rockstars rule and capitalism drools. The evil CEO has a super evil plan to mind control people into spending disposable income, and you have a metal guitar and need to stop him by hitting a load of things. I went in expecting an extremely cheesy story with an annoying main character. What I got was a delightfully cheesy story with a main character that is an idiot, but ultimately well-meaning. The character writing overall is solid, the villains are just wild enough to be hateable, and the main cast are all funny and unique in their own way. The story is a bit predictable, but it embraces that, and just focuses on telling a solid story to support the gameplay. It also helps that the voice actors for each of the characters did a really great job. Everything is played straight, and the writing never goes too far to become annoying. The choice to have you constantly use your team to help you is a fantastic way to link gameplay with narrative. You spend plenty of time with your team in cutscenes and the hideout, but without them in gameplay, you wouldn't make it. The real gem of the writing is the optional stuff. Pretty much every NPC can be interacted with, and they all have something funny to say. It is worth taking the time to stop and hear them out. Look, it's cheesy, but at the same time charming and not overdone. It's the perfect narrative tone for the gameplay, and the larger-than-life characters were simply a joy to interact with. Finally, Cinnamon is the single best character in gaming. He gets a 5 out of 5 on his own, and yeah, I guess the narrative can get that too for being insanely fun and well tied to the gameplay.
Enough!
Hi-Fi Rush is a full content experience that is technically sound. We experienced no bugs during our playthrough. Content-wise, you're getting a full single-player game packed to the brim with combat, exploration, challenges, and collectibles. Once you complete the game, more content opens up. The whole game has 4 difficulty options, and a bonus 5th one once you beat the game. Settings are a slam dunk. There are major language options for text, 2D textures, and voice. You can invert the X and Y axis separately. There is a slider for sensitivity, and you can enable auto target for the camera. You can enable low latency input and input priority. Controls have 2 set schemes, or you can completely rebind things to your liking. Dead zones can be adjusted for each stick. Streamer mode can be enabled, which will disable all of the licensed music in the game. Controller vibration and the hint system can be enabled or disabled. There is a gamma slider. Chromatic aberration, camera shake and motion blur can be enabled or disabled. There are sliders for master, music, voice, SFX and musical effects volume. You can also conduct a latency check to sync up any sound and visual latency with your display. Font size can be adjusted. There are multiple colorblind options with a strength slider. Subtitles can be enabled, and there are options for speaker name, background and background opacity. You can also enable context and action voice subtitles separately. Auto action mode takes over the combo button mashing for you. You only need to press a single button to the beat and the game will do the rest. This is a fantastic accessibility setting. You can also enable single button rhythm game, which turns all of the button presses in the rhythm minigames to one button. 808's rhythm visualization has a few visual options. Overall, this is a phenomenal selection of options. The base game options are great, and the accessibility options are thoughtful and inclusive. This is about as good as specs get. Great content, polished to a shine, with plenty of options. It all adds up to a 5 out of 5.
Hope this works.
It took me around 8 hours to complete Hi-Fi Rush. Each level is about 30 to 40 minutes long. It's nice and easy to break up the game, to fit it in around your life. Hi-Fi Rush doesn't ask a lot of your time and respects what you give to it. Once you beat the game, there is plenty of extra content to get stuck into. You can also play levels as you choose to go back and get all of the collectibles and secrets. If you want to give Hi-Fi Rush more of your time, it is very welcoming. Checkpoints are very friendly. When you die, you pop back pretty much instantly. When you die in a boss fight, you get put back to the start of the last phase. It will play the cutscene, but you can skip them. Hard drive footprint is very economic at bang on 16 gigabytes. If you have slow internet or a data cap, this isn't a big weight or a big drain, and is well worth the space on your hard drive. This is a short and sweet section. Hi-Fi Rush respects both your time and hard drive, and is very easy to fit in for half an hour or half an afternoon. It gets the full 5 out of 5.
Pathetic Armstrong tech to shade.
We'll see about that.
Oh yes, we will.
Hi-Fi Rush joins the 25-point club, and it is well deserved. This is how you make a modern game, and it is so evident that this was a passion project to the core. I cannot wait to get stuck back in with the endgame content, and I really hope that this game sees the success it deserves. Hi-Fi Rush is worth your time. It is pure bottled fun with plenty of cheese and heart. Everything here is polished to a shine, and the whole package is frankly remarkable. This is the kind of game that reinvigorates the love of gaming, both for players and developers, and I cannot wait to see where the team goes next.